Welcome back to What the Movie. I'm your host, Abel. And here on the couch sitting next to me, we have Evan.
Yeah.
And Thomas.
Hey.
And Kimani. Perfect. All right, so we will be talking about a few things today. For starters, I guess we'll start off on a movie catch-up because it's been an extra week since then. I've been out for 2 weeks because I was sick. Let's see, we'll go chronologically. You saw Creed 3 finally, Kimani, right?
Yeah, I was really looking forward to it, and I can't say I was disappointed. I think it was a very strong directorial debut by Michael B. Jordan. I really loved all the performances. I've loved all the performances in the Creed movies so far, but I think it's really cool that the antagonist of this one was actually played by an actor. Not to say that the guys that played Ricky Conlon or Drago in the second movie, or the first and second movies weren't good, but I really loved Jonathan Majors' performance and his overall presence in the movie. It's arguably the weakest one out of the three, but I think I still liked it more than 2 a little bit. It didn't have Ludwig Göransson's scoring, which is really tragic because that really kind of tied the other 2 movies together. But I think overall the story and the acting really carried this one, and I really liked it. I really liked all the anime stuff going on in it. So yeah, I would recommend Creed 3.
And then the weekend after that came out was there were 2 big movies that came out that weekend. There was Scream 6 and 65, which is arguably a big movie. Yeah, I know, Evan, you got a chance to see both of them, I think.
Yeah, so Scream 6, you want to talk about Scream 6 first?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
I also saw that one.
Yeah, Scream 6 is way better than the last one in my opinion because of the fact that they actually try to take risks. I know we talked about it before that it was in respect of Wes Craven, which I did not know, so that'll ground my opinion a little bit more. But also, it has my favorite opening scene of any of the Scream movies because it is literally made to tell you that it's going to be different from the rest without it being corny. They subvert expectations really well. I think in the first half, there are sequences that are very memorable. One in particular regarding a subway scene, which is my favorite. The ladder scene, I didn't like as much as other people did, but I like the concept of it. I think with them trying to make this the most brutal Ghostface, even though, yes, the violence of it is definitely amped up, almost in like a Halloween Kills kind of thing, but actually good. It kind of takes it back a little bit. I won't tell you why, but it feels like in the second half they kind of backed out in certain decisions that they made, and it kind of diluted the intensity a little bit. And without giving any spoilers, I think the ending is very hit or miss for me, but I think it does well with developing the main characters, in my personal opinion, and the legacy ones as well. So.
Yeah. I agree with you on it taking a lot more risks because while I did personally like Scream 5 and I did also feel it was a bit safe in terms of just it kind of tried to stick to basics a lot, but it seems that the positive critical reception that the filmmakers got for Scream 5 made them more confident that they knew what they were doing, and so they made something way better with this one.
Yeah.
And a huge part of that was that the fact that there were 2 major deviations from the general Scream formula that aren't really changed in any of the other ones, except for maybe 3, and in that time it didn't really work, but this time it really did. And this was, and also what you said about the violence and thrills of this is that this movie definitely leaned more into the horror elements than a lot of the other ones do, which is weird because it's technically a horror movie, but really it's it's a comedy series.
Yeah,
but
it's a funny movie.
But I did think that it kind of started to lose its edge a little bit towards the end because some characters, I'm going to say Jenna Ortega because she's going to survive this movie. She's Jenna Ortega and she's a huge name. But
I didn't, and that was kind of the point of the first one. But go off.
Jeez.
What?
That was kind of the point of the first one was that the big name didn't live. But
okay, well,
go off.
Now.
Yeah, the point is
she's
that,
in this one.
Yeah, the point is that there's certain characters that are the main characters, and the writers protect them.
And she got stabbed 5 different times in the
No spoilers, bro.
I don't know what the line is, but basically, yeah, some characters
certain
kind of
characters
kind of invincible.
Yeah, they have some cool scenes, but they survive. So, yeah, Scream 6, I
Good,
recommend
it's
it.
good.
It's good, it's funny. And then we can talk
65.
about it. All right, Kimani, do you want to talk about 65 first? Because I'm very curious on how you feel about it, actually.
Yeah, so I actually watched it in theaters with nobody else. I saw it with one of my best friends, and I said to him, wouldn't it be funny if nobody else came? And then we went into the movie theater, and nobody else was there. And so we got to hoot and holler. And I think that was really the only thing that made watching this that fun. I didn't like it very much. It was, I don't know, it felt very by the numbers in terms of its premise, and which isn't necessarily bad, but I think I feel like it was trying a bit hard to like seem like it was reaching for something, like it was reaching for a broader sense of meaning, which I don't really think it found very well. I think at this point, this type of story that it's telling is very rote. It's a gruff man projects his dead or dying daughter onto a girl that he has to protect that he doesn't really understand. It's a very, at this point, we've seen a lot of these, and The Last of Us just finished airing. I liked the dinosaur designs quite a bit because they were fake dinosaurs. They weren't using like actual like real dinosaurs for the most part. So you kind of got the vibe that they were like alien looking. So I mean, it wasn't overall like the worst thing I've ever seen, but that's a pretty low bar. And I liked Adam Driver. I thought he pulled his weight, but overall, I don't think it was anything to write home about.
Okay. Yeah, I actually feel, I would say I feel the opposite, but I totally understand your position on the movie. I thought it was way better than what I expected because I thought the trailers, they showed a little bit too much of the premise. It would have been nice if we didn't know it was dinosaurs. That's what everybody usually says, and I agree with them on that. But I feel for me, predictable doesn't always mean bad for me. It's how you execute it. And for me, I actually really liked this movie because it felt like the directors, number one, had a dinosaur phase as a kid. And number two, they saw the rest of the Jurassic World movies and said, what would make this movie good if the dinosaurs were actually scary? So they put those little two elements. They made a movie with a mid-sized budget with some visual effects I thought were decent. I think there's one shot in the movie that looks like something out of Birdemic, if you know what I'm talking about. But I also think that some of the emotional stuff could have been done a little bit better. But the movie has incredible sound design. I mean, holy crap! I actually saw this with a packed audience. I'm not joking. I saw it twice with a packed audience, and everybody reacted to the movie. It was truly something that engaged me throughout. I love it visually. It looks really cool. The concept, I think, worked for me. Yeah, it's a story that has been told before, and I just feel like they put enough of it to have its own twist. It's something that is memorable for me, and it's a straight to the point thriller, and so that's something we really get that much in theaters. Everything has to be very dense and complex. This is a popcorn movie, and that's what it was striving to be, and I think that it hit its mark. So Scott Beck and Brian Woods, I think, did a good job, and I can't wait to see what they make next. So, yeah.
Polar opposite experiences on both sides of this couch.
We'll see. Yeah.
Yeah, we got Shazam. I know Evan saw this twice already.
I saw it twice. I'm gonna see it the third time. So that kind of gives a hint of how much I like it. So here's what I'll say. I'm very sad that it's not making that much money because I feel like the movie deserves a lot more positive reception critically because David F. Sandberg, who's the director of like Lights Out and Animal Creation, but he also made the first Shazam. He clearly wanted to aim for the first movie to be like an 80s Amblin, like Spielberg kind of movie, almost like Tom Hanks' Big.
It felt like kind of like a PG movie at times.
It is a PG movie, but with some horror elements like a Gremlins or something like that, like movies that go on the edge back in the day. But now there's a code.
Like a family movie.
Yeah, and this one continues that. It's probably one of the most consistent sequels. It's the most actually, I'll say this: it's the most consistent sequel we have in the DCU so far, in terms of quality. Because
it's not a very high bar.
I know it's not a very high bar.
How many sequels are there even in the DCU?
There's a lot. There's even a reboot with the in the middle of it. But with Fury of the Gods, I think it's a great movie because it felt like this movie had a kid's imagination in the best way possible. There's even a sequence where I don't want to spoil it, but it's very clear that a brand must have paid money to be a part of it, product placement, and it revolves around candy. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about, but it's my favorite scene in the movie because it kind of highlights how unapologetically fun the movie is. It has this colorful, poppy vibe to it. The humor works mostly. But even if you don't laugh at a joke, it doesn't have that weird pause in it to where it's very awkward. It moves along. And, you know, it happens with most comedies that I like, and I think the comedy worked very well because it felt like what the characters would say. You know what I mean? It's not something that's out of place or something that they're trying to be relatable with. I hope Zachary Levi stays in the DCU. I think he's perfect as Shazam. Although Asher Angel as Billy Batson and Zachary Levi, they did kind of feel like two different people at times. Helen Mirren's awesome. She always was awesome, but this movie makes her more awesome. Lucy Liu is great too. Rachel Zegler's in there. I think her character's okay, but I think she does the best that she can with the material. And then last thing I'll say without any spoilers is that Jack Dylan Grazer is fantastic in this movie, yet I feel like his shtick of, you know, talking very fast kind of gets on my nerves a little bit. You know, he's doing a little Eisenberg-ish. But overall, I think it's a great movie. I think it's worth your time. It's better than Black Adam. So, you know, there's that.
It's just an episode full of high bars.
Hey man, Creed 3 is a high bar. Creed 3 is a high bar.
It is actually fantastic.
Up next, we got John Wick this coming weekend, which looks. I've been hearing nothing but great
Really good things,
about it.
which I'm kind of annoyed. He can't keep getting away with it. He can't keep getting away with it. There shouldn't be we shouldn't be on the 4 installment of an action franchise and have them consistently be good. We shouldn't have this.
Be better each time.
And then the Oscars were a little over a week ago. I know not many people on these couches cared about them, but I always enjoy watching them. I've watched them every year for like, I don't know, like
Me too.
for like 10 or so years.
Yes.
Yeah, it's, I think I guessed 16 out of the 23 awards correctly, which is about on par with how I do usually. And Everything Everywhere All at Once took home the big award of the night, Best Picture. I think it wasn't really a shock to anybody, but I think it was well deserved. It's original. It shows the Academy's kind of honoring like younger, like more like, I don't know, more Gen Z-ish centered stories where it's the editing is insanely fast paced and focuses on like, I don't know.
Issues.
It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's like it wasn't a surprise this season because of all the buzz around it, all the buzz around it. But it is a kind of a surprise in terms of like the context of previous Best Picture winners. It's a welcome surprise because I think this might have been the most accessible Best Picture winner since like maybe Return of the King.
Wow,
maybe
that's a good point.
10 years ago.
like more than that.
It's
No, it's way
a
more
better
than that.
Best Picture than
Oh,
Crash.
20 years ago. That's what I meant.
Again, high bars.
It's a very high
And
bar.
Green Book, yeah.
Yeah, but
Oh, don't remind me. Oh,
Please
don't
don't.
remind
but
me.
like I think it is cool that that after like the kind of a disaster that last year was, and not just the one thing that everyone talks about, but in just a lot of other ways.
The year before was also pretty terrible.
But like, I mean,
Host
especially
question.
last year, and it's like I'm thinking specifically of like how they talked about animation last year and how that was a different this year. It still wasn't great this year, but it was a lot better than just outright calling it kids movies.
Yeah,
and-
Guillermo del Toro helped with that, with
Yeah.
saying that it's a medium and it's been filmed for a long time. I mean, we grew up in a generation where we had the best. You know, we grew up with Pixar, so you know, what I mean, like we kind of saw how it evolved. But I guess for me, I'll tell you the truth. I actually watched it halfway, and then I turned it off and hung out with my family because it was spring break and it was the first day. But I think for me, it was boring not because it was bad. It was so normal that it was boring. And I'm not saying that's not a bad thing. I think Jimmy Kimmel's insufferable. I'm just going to tell you the truth. I
also think Jimmy
multiple
Kimmel's
times.
insufferable, so it's fine.
Yeah, so like he made a bunch of like slap jokes that were kind of like, was funny, never. But I will say this, Ke Kwan, by far my favorite part of the whole award show. I mean, that dude's journey, he tells a story every single time, and it doesn't bring me to tears, but it makes me very happy about the fact that he got so much attention and that he's going to be in future projects now. He's a great person, just in general. I love to see him win, and I'm happy that everybody supports him around him. And plus, we got an Airheads reunion and a In Temple of Doom reunion. It was nice. And Brendan Fraser winning, you know, that was not what my pick was. I thought it was going to be Austin Butler. But
I also
think,
thought it was going to be Austin
Yeah,
Butler, but I was rooting for Brendan Fraser.
Yeah, Brendan Fraser was kind of like an underdog situation. And that's what this Oscar, I think, was.
Yeah.
More than anything was underdogs Oscars, and that was actually kind of fun to see.
Yeah.
So I think that's my 2 cents about it. All Quiet on the Western Front, haven't seen it, so I don't want to talk crap about something I haven't seen, you know? So, yeah.
I think Everything Everywhere All at Once is now the most awarded movie at the Oscars in history.
No.
No?
I think Return of the King
Is it Return of the King?
got like 10 Oscars or something.
That's pretty wild.
Wow.
I have no idea. It might be.
It's definitely up there though.
Yeah, I really liked Everything Everywhere. It was one of my favorites of last year. I don't think it necessarily needed to win everything it won. I don't know if it needed to win Best Screenplay.
Win everything.
True.
It won everything everywhere.
You hack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Women Talking one. I haven't seen that, but I think that title's hilarious. I'm just saying.
Passes the
Pretty
Bechdel test.
accurate title.
It is.
honestly.
I'm sure it is. I just think it's funny. I will say, Avatar winning visual effects probably the most unsurprising thing
Yeah, that's a
ever to happen
no-brainer.
in history.
Just like,
Also,
yeah.
James Cameron not being there is also kind of funny. I'm just like, you won something, dude. But yeah, and also Michelle Yeoh winning. I mean, come on, you know, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
I don't know if I said she was Chun-Li, but she wasn't Chun-Li. I actually think I'm crazy. I heard that somewhere, and I just walked around being like, oh, she was Chun-Li. She wasn't Chun-Li in the Street Fighter movie. I can't remember if I said that on this show before, but if I did, then
I don't
that's
remember
not
it, but I
true.
remember it now. I remember you saying it just now.
Well, okay, I
Here.
know I said it just now, but like
Now it's on camera.
yeah,
Okay. Well, I will say this. We were gonna say like what we think should have
Yeah.
won for Best Picture. My favorite movie of last year was Avatar: The Way of Water, and I knew that was never gonna win because I know the Oscars, and I'm sure I saw the board of what they all looked like, and I was like, nah, they don't look like somebody who would vote for Blue People movie. I'm just saying, it doesn't look like what would happen. But I was thinking like maybe they would go the biopic route for certain things. Also, Elvis not winning. Editing was a surprise for me, but I thought that scene
was a
with
shame.
everything
It really should have won editing.
Yeah, so I was kind of like, okay, that's the one surprise maybe. And then I once again haven't seen All Quiet.
I kind of thought Fabelmans was going to win Best Picture, to be honest. Like,
Best Director.
besides, yeah, or Best Director. Besides, obviously, like the Everything Everywhere buzz, Fabelmans seemed like it was going to be like the pick, you know. I mean, I wouldn't have minded. It's a good movie, but
Also, I wanted Babylon to win Best Score, but I guess that's never gonna happen. Yeah, what?
I'm just gonna say all that needs to be said, which is like Nope got universally snubbed.
Yes.
That's.
You think it should have got nominated for Best Picture?
Oh, I totally think it should not got nominated.
I
I think it could have. I think it could reasonably could have won it, and I wouldn't have complained.
it,
I
def-
don't.
it
wasn't
definitely could have won
expecting it.
Best Cinematography.
I wasn't expecting it to win Best, but I think it was a contender for Best Picture. In all honesty, I think like now that I've like really sat down with the movie and like kind of let it ruminate, and I've seen it a second time, I actually really do think it was that strong. Yeah, I don't know.
I think that if I had to pick out of the nominations for Best Picture, I would have given it to one of the more like less like observed films of last year. It was Triangle of Sadness.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
I would definitely recommend watching it. I thought it was hilarious, and then like I didn't really understand the point of it while watching, but afterwards I'm kind of putting together all the pieces in my head, and it's like
Let it marinate.
yeah, it definitely. It was great when I first watched it, and then it got a lot better after like thinking about it. So that's definitely my pick. But if I had to pick just my favorite movie of last year, I'd give it to The Whale, probably. I watched it in theaters back in December, and then watched it again just this past week, and it's just another. I got gut punched again
hard to
watching
watch,
it.
man.
Yeah.
It's a harsh movie.
Thought it was very impactful, and like all the performances were great. I loved the direction. Had to mess with my TV settings because it was just incredibly dark the entire time.
I will say a very underrated performance, and that was Ty Simpkins, who played the Mormon kid. He was fantastic, and his character changes throughout the movie. So,
Yeah, like it's like that's probably the worst performance in the movie out of the big four,
Wow, okay.
which is not a bad thing
really,
because
you thought
everyone
she was
was.
worse than Sadie Sink, or
I'm not. I guess worst wasn't the right word to use.
Yeah.
Least best is probably.
Okay, all right.
I thought she was great, and then Hong Chow really just always just
Yeah,
knows how
yeah.
to say things in a way that'll just make me cry. So, yeah, she's incredible. I'm sad that she lost to Jamie Lee Curtis at the Oscars, but I'm also surprised that she was even recognized because
True.
The Whale missed out on a bunch of awards that it should have gotten. But yeah, I think we've talked about the Oscars long enough.
We didn't have a lot to say about it.
It's our 2 cents, man.
Yeah, we'll move into our movie of the week,
Yes.
which is Promising Young Woman right here. I hope that this will stand up.
Yeah.
The Blu-ray.
There we go.
Yeah.
Got this for like $4 at Goodwill like a year ago.
Yeah.
Which is surprising because it only came out like
A couple of years ago.
2 years
Yeah,
ago.
just a couple
Yeah,
years
it
years
came out
ago.
of COVID,
I think it was because it was during COVID, so it probably didn't do super well in theaters.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't go to a single theater that year, I don't think.
I saw Sonic 2. No, I saw the first Sonic.
I was about to
And
say, I don't
then
think Sonic 2 was
Sonic 2 was this last year.
Yeah. But somebody isn't here to talk about it.
Yeah.
And she picked it, and we want to be really respectful because it's apparently one of her favorite movies, right? She loved it so much that she had to talk
Yeah,
about it. So.
Brooke, it was her pick from this past week, and then she is sick today, unfortunately, but she sent in a it's pretty long review of the movie. I'll just read it off
Paraphrase.
really quick. We are this movie does touch on some pretty touchy subjects and things that people might find uncomfortable or disturbing. So just content warning, there's going to be discussions of sexual assault and other things of that same caliber. Brooke said that she described this movie in one word, and that word was revenge. And that Emerald Fennell did an amazing job at successfully capturing how women can be disposable in a world run by men. That's honestly the biggest takeaway of the movie, in my opinion. It shows the adversities of the main character, Cassie, facing in the wake of her friend Nina's death. It showed Cassie's journey coping with her friend's assault and death several years prior. She works at a small coffee shop and, as a side hustle, goes out to nightclubs pretending to be drunk so that when men try to have consensual sex with her, she then reveals that she is sober. I believe she meant to say unconsensual, but anyways. Cassie later meets Ryan, a former classmate, who reveals to her the man responsible for Nina's death is getting married soon. She takes revenge on the lawyer who defended the case, a former friend who did not back them up, the college dean, and the rapist. Too often, rape happens to women all over the world, and it gets brushed under the rug. This movie really highlights that problem and makes the viewer reflect. While it might leave the viewer uncomfortable, disturbed, or dissatisfied, it is important, I think, for every young adult to take away quotes and key aspects from the movie, including the way Cassie fights against rape culture and the patriarchy through posing as a sex worker. It puts the drunk men who think they are good people into their place by truly revealing that they are really shitty. When she talks to the dean about the rape and why she didn't do anything about it, only for the dean to say she didn't want to, quote, ruin a young man's life. Then after Cassie reveals she put the dean's daughter unaccompanied in a room full of college men, the reaction from the dean left me in shock because she felt so much anxiety and concern that her daughter could be raped, but did not show these same emotions when Cassie came forward with the name of the person who raped Nina. It makes me wonder how often that happens in institutions and how many men get away with it because the administration doesn't want to ruin their lives. And Cassie, a quote from her, "I guess it feels different when it's someone you love." Overall, I think this film was memorable and provided clever social commentary about our justice system and the way rape culture is dealt with. So I thought that was pretty well
Very
put
good.
by Brooke.
Yeah.
Very well
Yeah.
put.
Couch people, what were your thoughts?
Well, it was.
I'll start off with what I liked, and that sounds like I didn't like the movie overall. I did think I liked the movie overall, but I do think that there are a couple of relatively glaring issues that kind of keep it from being elevated, I think. And I think that, and this is obviously really tough because the movie, I feel like, very heavily wants to be about something and wants to have something to say, but I think the ending that they go for specifically in the context of the rest of the movie, kind of confuses the whole experience. It muddles it quite a bit, in my opinion, because we're talking about this with spoilers, correct?
Yeah, this is a discussion.
I didn't overall mind the decision to kill Cassie. I didn't overall mind the decision to have her death be covered up and have the men in her life not side by her or anything like that. I just think that I think that overall it was a hollow decision to go that route and then pull the punch afterwards by making it seem as if this was a form of justice being doled out instead of what it was more straightforwardly, which is tragic. I don't think that it is a victory that Cassie dies and the man that killed her and killed her friend essentially gets away with it. And I think that the movie very deliberately wants to, and obviously he doesn't get away with it, but I think the movie wants to frame him going to jail and Cassie leaving the system that the film very much obviously wants you to be critical of, to dispensing justice to this man. And I think that obviously it wouldn't have been perfect if the movie was a straightforward rape revenge fantasy, I don't think. But I think that if it wanted to subvert it, I think it should have gone full tilt. And I think it really genuinely should have just ended at the wedding and nothing else happening. I think if it wanted to drive that point home.
Well, I'm going to push back on that a little bit. But I think, first of all, I did some reading that apparently Emerald Fennell did want the movie to end with Al and his friend getting rid of Cassie's body, but like she couldn't get that off the ground. So, but I do think, I don't know. I think that the reason that I think the ending works is that if it was just a complete framing of like, oh yeah, she won in the end. I think I would be on your side. I think I would agree with you, but I also think that it's just, this didn't feel like a victory, and in the sense that everything won or anything. I think it ultimately was still preserved the tragedy of what happened, and like, if anything, it was more just bittersweet. It really felt like a bittersweet ending to me, because sure, Al goes to jail for murder, but he doesn't. He's not punished for ruining Nina's life. Ryan gets off completely scot-free.
Actually, I thought the implication was that the video was sent out and that he was therefore implicated in having known, and that his life would also be ruined in the process. I feel like he experienced consequences.
It's possible, but they didn't like that. That was just an implication, I thought. But I don't know. I think that it's something that the ending. It's really hard to describe.
Is it? But I guess I'll put my 2 cents on it. Just to say real quick. I will talk about the whole movie. I think that it's probably one of my favorite movies I've seen recently. In terms of its craft, it is a well-made movie. I mean, surprisingly well-made for me, because I haven't really heard that much about it until maybe like 2 years, Oscars. I think it won Best Screenplay, right? And now I know why. Now I know why, because these characters shift and change throughout the film. It doesn't feel one note to me. I feel like, it just like what Brooke said, it had a lot to say, but it said it very maturely. It was a very unflinching film. It felt like it felt like it was engaging the audience in with the conversation without like trying to like talk down to it, which is something that I enjoy. And also, I really like how uncomfortable the movie made me feel. I know it sounds weird, but for a movie, I mean, the intro is very strong too. It's a very big impression
very visceral.
Yeah, very visceral. There's a scene where somebody chokes somebody with a pillow. That's how Cassie dies.
It's the longest.
And it's a long one take with really good acting, and it is hard to watch because, and usually in movies, even one of my favorites, Joker, where somebody gets choked out with a pillow, it's like they and then they die immediately. It's just like, no, there is some visceral realism without exploiting it. You know what I mean? It doesn't show you everything, but it talks about it, and that's enough. It reminded me of a movie that Carey Mulligan was also in called She Said, which does the same thing. It talks about like the Harvey Weinstein situation, but it doesn't exploit any of the situations that were that happened. But it just talks about it, and it's enough to make it feel icky inside. Carey Mulligan, I do want to say she probably should have won the Oscar in my opinion. I love her in this movie. She's incredible. She's commanding. Every word that comes out of her mouth, I'm just engaged. I'm like, what else is she gonna do? She's a very unpredictable character, but also almost everything about her because of how detailed
There's a
her
lot
history
of
is.
like levels of like that she has to go under to pretend to be pretend to be this person pretending to be drunk.
Yeah, her and also Bo Burnham. I've never seen him legitimately act. I've seen his specials. I grew up with him as well, YouTube. And great person, fantastic actor because I hated him. I wanted to drop kick him in the face. Okay, but yeah, great. I thought it was awesome. It was a masterpiece in my opinion. I loved it.
And on those stripping off the thing about Bo Burnham, it's like just a larger thing with the movie in general is that pretty much everyone, except for Carey Mulligan, because she's not really a comedic actor, but pretty much everyone in this movie is either someone who's known for being a comedian or being like a friendly kind of person. Like Clancy Brown plays her dad, and and Alfred Molina plays the lawyer, and he's Doc Ock.
Yeah, he's Doc Ock.
And Allison Brie is the friend, and they're all people we know as it's on a meta level. What? Oh, my mic fell off. On a meta level, the actors, and that they're
that they're
the type of role they play.
Yeah, you type of know the type of roles they play, and so that's why you want because you know what movie you're watching, that they're probably not going to be good people, but the fact that they're such likable actors makes it hard to stomach, and also I think really sells the message.
True.
It's especially with Bo Burnham because he obviously
he's very charming in the first 2 acts of the movie. It's this is a good guy, and then you watch the tape.
I thought that was not a good twist. I thought it was weird that there was one normal guy in the whole movie, and then at the very end they were like, "No, he's actually."
He's not the only normal person. Her parents,
her dad who covers up her own death at the end.
Her dad doesn't cover up her own death. He just genuinely doesn't know what's happening.
He makes up an excuse for her being mentally ill, and she goes out all the time and.
I will say this,
and also the lawyer who expresses genuine remorse.
No, of course, but
and also,
he had probably the worst role in it to begin with. I'm not saying that the movie's completely morally reprehensible, or that I think that the depictions of shitty men in this movie are accurate in real life, and I think a lot of the things said by the men in this movie are said by real men. But at the same time, I think that past a certain point, it felt like the movie was just rubbing my nose in it and was kind of just making me feel bad, as if I don't know how to feel bad when there's plenty of other stuff in the movie to feel bad about. I don't know.
I will say this, I guess as an opposite to that whole topic is the humor in the movie actually works for me.
I thought it was very funny.
Yeah, I think Emerald Fennell as a
funny.
writer, for humor, I was like, if she makes a full-on comedy, I'm watching it. I'm watching whatever she's making day one. I don't care. I think she's making something with Barry Keoghan and Emma Stone, I think, which is going to be awesome. So whatever she's making next, I'm excited for because she knows how to make a movie, craft-wise. So I loved it.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty. Very unsubtle movie, but it also doesn't really care what you think, and that's part of why I like it so much. It feels kind of it's almost framed as a superhero movie where she has this hidden life of her that she has to hide from all the people she knows.
Kind of thing.
It's vigilante justice, and I think it's something that when you hear a lot of these cases, the name of the movie is Promising Young Woman, which is a reference to.
Turner.
That case where, in the defense, they described him as a promising young man, and then he got off with a slap on the wrist, basically.
It's something that it also refers to Nina, the victim who
Yeah.
is constantly referred to as like the top of her class in a medical school. You know,
Yeah.
like she was a promising young woman, and her life was completely ruined by this event.
I didn't get that for some reason.
That's crazy.
That's
crazy.
I don't know. I for some reason didn't get that. For
And
some
then,
reason.
and it's the same thing with Cassie. She was also a promising young woman who was doing well in her medical class, and she also.
Phoenix.
And then Bo Burnham's character, who mentioned that he was terrible in his classes, became a pediatrician. So
Yeah.
It's like, I think one of the most impactful quotes from it is definitely when one of the men in the movie is like, it's a man's worst nightmare to get accused like this, and she says, "Can you guess what every woman's worst nightmare
Yes,
is?"
dude.
It's very like, it's just like it. Like when you hear about this stuff in the news and stuff, it's just like very gratifying to think of scenarios like this, and that's why I think so much of this movie is so satisfying,
Yes.
yet so like just horrible to like even consider like that this has to happen.
It's like really big.
yeah, and then the last scene where Al, the rapist, has killed Cassie. And it like you said, smothered her with a pillow, and she's lying dead to him on the pillow. And his friend comes up and says, "This is not your fault," even though we watched him smother her for 2.5 minutes. He could have stopped any time. Like she was probably passed out, but he kept. It was his fault.
We saw the whole thing, and we have different perspectives.
But yeah,
So-
we can go on and on about how how good the messaging is. But I also want to talk about the score in this movie.
Yes,
The
dude, the
score
soundtrack and the
is
score.
there's a scene towards the end, like before the last big act finale. Where there's like a string cover of "Toxic" by Britney Spears.
Awesome.
And it's so good. Like they turn like this. It's like haunting, but also like really powerful, and also still having the same emotions as the original song, which is just like empowered kind of femininity. So, but it takes that song and it adds all those layers to it. But,
So good. All right.
We got to wrap it up.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Here we go. We
Good
got
movie.
this bucket
Good movie.
right
In the bucket,
here.
fantastic.
What are we gonna get
you, bro.
today? I'll show you. There's all the movies, just to prove that there are movies in here. It's not just one. And we have another pick from Cassidy. It's Close. I believe it's a foreign film from last year.
He got nominated for.
Yeah, it got nominated for
movie's
Best Foreign Film
the
or
movie's called
International
Close?
Film. Yeah, it's called Close.
Okay.
I haven't seen it, but I've heard many good things about it, so I'm excited to watch it
Awesome.
All right.
for next week's episode. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching this week's episode and keep watching those movies.
Yes.